Alright, well, hello everyone, welcome to Common Solution. I'm your host, Jasper Haas. Today I want to talk about assumptions because, damn, yo, we have a lot of assumptions in our society, and not just in our society, but especially in ourselves. So I want to talk about this because this is something that is key in everything, actually, especially key in communication and understanding yourself because who we truly are, we have a base assumption that we think we know who we are, but in actuality we don't. So that's the first assumption that everything is based upon, and this is called in philosophy the Cartesian framework. Is that we're splitting mind and matter, and this splitting is so heavily invested upon in our society. We emphasize with our words that there's a split, that I am not, that I know that I am. I'm still in a self discovery, and this is about questioning your assumptions because who we truly are, we cannot tell because it's changing from moment to moment. And we might say one thing, I'm a painter now, but maybe in 2 years I'm not a painter. I'm not a painter, by the way, but if I would, as an example, would I use this identity and then later I will change? I wouldn't be a painter anymore and I would be maybe a DJ, whatever. I would call myself that, but it's just a profession. It's not who we are. Can we define who we are? Well, divine maybe, but we cannot define it. And in the sense that we can say to others, "This is who I am." We're always biased about ourselves because we do not know. Assumption is actually something in dialogue. I've been deepening this vision surrounding the podcast a lot, and I've been doing a lot of research into this book that I have here. It's called from David Bohm, The Essential David Bohm. He was a pretty interesting person. He was a student of Albert Einstein, and he came up with the holographic universe model that I think a lot of people are familiar with because of the Matrix. But actually, in this end of this book, he speaks on um, dialogue, which I think is very key in changing our society, because there's this set in our communication that if we're heavily invested into our assumptions and somebody else questions that, we feel confronted because we are believing that this we are this person, but we're not our assumptions, like we're not our beliefs, we're not our identities. These are all things that are changing and we're discovering, and it's on what he called the unfolding process. Um, so there is a constant flux. There's a constant movement, which he called the hollow movement. Um, and so we're always in our life um, trying to find out who we are, what our morals are, what our values are, and um, a dialogue is here is a tool for this. The word dialogue, something that I should have said more into the introductory um, video of our channel, is that what dialogue is. So there's two words. There's dia, which means true. It's not doesn't mean two, but it means true. And logos means the word. So true to word. So we're using our words to communicate, but in order to do that, we have to settle on the same meaning of a particular word. So what Krishnamurti, who was heavily, like Dave Bohm was heavily influenced by Krishnamurti, which I'm also very influenced by, and also is a inspiration for this channel, is that we do not know. We are constantly need to inquire, and this inquiry reveals a lot more about who we are, but also what the world is. And so this is where like communication becomes a form of meditation and some creative process where we never know where our conversations will lead us to and what new discovery will be made through this dialogue, because there's a certain flow of meaning that interacts with the different people involved and extends beyond than what we're just speaking there. Like it flows between us, what he says here as well. So yeah, I'm gonna read out a little part of the book, um, because especially in contrast to conclusion, it's very interesting because our conclusion, I mean discussion, because this is something that a lot of people are doing, getting into discussions, but they're and discussions also are mentioned here have a certain value, but if we're not able to dialogue, we'll not change our views. So here it goes. The way we start a dialogue group is usually by talking about dialogue, talking it over, discussing why we're doing it, what it means, and so forth. I don't think it's wise to start a group before people have gone into all that, at least somewhat. You can, but when you'll have to trust that the group will continue, and that these questions will come out later. So if you are thinking of meeting in a group, one thing which I suggest is to have a discussion or a seminar. Well, there is here like a discussion, so at least you have to start out with a discussion about dialogue, for a while. And those who are interested can then go on to have a dialogue. And you mustn't worry too much whether you are or are not having a dialogue. That's one of the blocks. It may be mixed, so we will discuss dialogue for a while. What is its nature? I give meaning to the word dialogue, that's somewhat different from commonly used. The differentiations of the word often help us to suggest a deeper meaning. Dialogue comes from the word Greek logos. Logos means the word, and in our case, we'll think of the meaning of the word, and dia means true. So yeah, so we have to use discussions to get to dialogue, but this is just an initial step that we're discussing. We don't have a discussion. We're discussing. Well, I don't know what the difference is in that, but it is something that is important. Dialogue is that we're able to fluctuate between different perspectives, and that we can see people as an extension instead of a blockage, and that's also stated here. Something else they also mention is that if you have a dialogue, this is something that are here. Even one person can have a sense of dialogue within himself if the spirit of the dialogue is present. The picture or image that this the variation suggests is a stream of meaning flowing among and through us and between us. This will make possible the flow of meaning in the whole group, out of which may emerge a new understanding. It's something new, which may not be in the starting point at all. It's creative, it's something creative. And this shared meaning is the glue cement that holds people and societies together. So that is something that I think speaks very loudly to not just current situations that we're in, but also our psychological state that most people are in, is that they're not open for change, they're not open for different perspectives because they are fixated into certain viewpoint, certain belief, certain outlook. But like I said, the identity that we have is always shifting. Now I'm hoping that it will shift towards something positive, constructive, that will benefit not just ourselves but especially our society, which Krishnamurti always said we are our society. And the more people realize this, the more change we can put into society. I just was writing out some, if I'm gonna make some merchandise in the future. I'm curious what you guys think of this. But I'm gonna make some clothing with some slogans on there with maybe the symbol or whatever in the future. Be aware of your assumptions. That's the first one. And I want to have it like a sign which says like be aware you're treading in private area or something like that. Then instead, be aware of your assumptions. Um, this one is also pretty funny. I am insane to be sane. I am insane to be a sane person. So there's like something in our society where if you differ your viewpoint a lot from uh, quote unquote the masses, or like normal people associate themselves with being more normal, they will call you insane. But our society is actually not that sane themselves, so there's no correct viewpoint, because you're assuming the other person is insane and you're sane. But you actually have to be insane to be sane. Like you have to be different. Um, so it's like if somebody calls me insane, it actually for me is a compliment, because that means that I differ from society enough, that I'm not part of this insanity. But society is also it's double sided. So there's some insanity inside in society, but there's also sanity, and hoping that the sanity will be enhanced, but not without its creative component, which some people call insane. Um, because you need a little bit of insanity to come up with your own viewpoint on life and see things differently. Um, you change life, or life changes you. That's some deep statement I think as well, because that's about co-creating our society together. Like if we're not co-creating, then life creates us. Like it's just an automatic process that we become part of. And I think like in the Hindu tradition, this were people that follow the law of karma. Because if you don't have a basic understanding of how that works, like the cause and effect, then you will be submerged under it. But if you go towards the cause and become the cause, and you can cause something else, then you become a co-creator, and you can influence life to a certain degree, because it's a symbiotic thing. I was just talking to me this afternoon with a friend about this as well. Is that you have to uh, work together with life, and it's what I call naturality. Is that it's just I'm a natural expand. I'm not gonna use the word just because it reduces, but at least that you're symbiotic and harmonic with quote unquote the external world or nature, something that you perceive as outside of yourself, which it is not. That's another assumption. Um, so emphasis is also always on questions, but I already talked about this a lot. So what lies at your assumption? And the thing about assumption as well is that we need it to a certain degree to do our jobs or to live our lives, to be able to communicate. Um, but it's something that I need to deepen a lot more, and it's also a reason why I started doing this video. But I got other reasons as well, because I'm gonna do some promotion work. It is for charity, but at the same time, if it sounds really good that I'm doing something good for society, then I also have an assumption, and I think like spirituality is about being able to question your own assumptions. So I'm still able to do this job, but I'm doing it really for a better cause, and it's not just like I think assumption is actually splitting our society apart, because I'm assuming that I'm not one with you. But based out of this assumption, there's a lot of separation, and with that comes suffering. Well, those are all assumptions as well. So feel free to question those. But that's true dialogue, and I think that's what David Bohm was speaking upon. Is that even if you're becoming more in this harmonic space, you can speak more in a dialogical sense. Because that's how I speak. Like I'm not thinking that I'm right in anything that I say, and I'm inviting people. That's why it's called common. Common on the ground. Let's just talk about it. And I'm always open to question on my own assumptions and belief. I'm definitely not thinking that I'm a good person. I would like to believe that I'm a good person, but I'm trying in my own life to be as a good person as I can. But I wouldn't call myself a good person, even though everything that I do with this podcast and my books and everything, it's about trying to create a better world. But that's trying, so it's a journey. Like I'm getting better and better at it for sure. Some degrees I'm still lacking, but it's about like small things, like just being there for a certain person when I need them, or help him up cleaning them, or just I was giving some food to ducks yesterday. Um, I know it wasn't bread, so it's also not bad for the ducks. It was more like tomatoes and just some food that I bought from a Turkish store. But it's always about giving, just giving back and giving service. That's what life is about, you know. And there's no, it's not just about that. There's many things other than that. But that's life is its highest form, because if you give others, you'll be given something as well. And even if you don't do it for the result. You just do it for because it feels just the right thing to do. Just well, it feels as the right thing to do, and it's something that just I'm trying to step away from the word just, because I think it's actually one of the most toxic words in English, because it reduces the word to just, like it's just this, it's just that, you know, like if you feel then you're in your love, if you're falling in love with somebody, they say like oh, that's just some chemicals in your brain, but it's actually not chemicals in your brain. Well, it is chemicals in your brains, but it's not just that. It's also a feeling and an experience, and maybe an enrichment. Um, so no, take it all as you may. I'm always wanting to invite questioning, and I'm like I said, I don't feel like I'm a good person. So if people like, oh no, I just want to feel people that are good people. Be aware that most people that say on YouTube that they're good people and that they're quote unquote spiritual and have a high moral ground, that they are often not people you should listen to, because they're trying to sell you something. And sure, I got my clothing as well, and all that stuff in the future. But it's not about making the money and just profiting off other people. Like I want to just. That's why I brought up these quotations here, that I like, be aware of your assumptions. Like if that would be something that would stick on, people would see that more on off the base, and it would be part of our daily communication. I think that will heal a lot, and that's my end goal, is healing, not just for myself, but for all of us. And I think that happens through communication, and I feel like that's just the right thing to do. And I make mistakes, you know, we all make mistakes, and I'm living my life very experimentally. Like, to be honest, I don't even know what I'm doing. So I'm just improvising, you know, but then a naturalistic level. Like I'm just looking and observing at nature. I can see the moon right now, and like the moon reflects light. I also try to reflect some light into my life and just learn from nature and apply it into daily life. And I won't say that I'm a perfect individual, but somebody that really inspired me during my trip. I don't know if I already mentioned this. I'm gonna mention it briefly, but there was like a woman working in a supermarket. I like normally think like it's a very numbing job, you know, like it's very repetitive, but she was actually pretty enthusiastic and really happy, and it really inspired me to like, okay, for me this is what I would call naturality, or what some people call spirituality, which has a lot of associations, so I'm stepping away from that word. But in just what feels natural, to like make the best out of things, you know, and maybe you got some more plants in your house, or just appreciating small things. It can be, yeah, everything. Like just appreciate life. Just be thankful. Try to give to others. Be in service. And yeah, I think like life will be going in towards your benefit if you live like that. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm always inviting people that say differently, because that way I'm only to a degree, I'm sure that I'm giving a better world. So yeah, like subscribe. That was it for today. I don't know when I'm gonna do a new episode, because I haven't been because I'm pretty busy these couple of days, having this new job and also the university next year. To do some preparations. I'm not sure when the new podcast comes, and also with who. I'm trying to get on a female. So if you have somebody that you think would be interesting to get on the podcast, this is an invitation for that, because I think like women emphasize more of our feelings, and feelings can transmit through words. Like as men, we're always thinking, I think like this, I think like that. This is my theory, but women, they feel much better into what you're saying, and also being able, like, if you're not even able to speak the same language, they can still like feel into you. So that's something that is happening, I think, in our culture, where we're not really like, it's Babylon, it's we're not speaking the same language. Like we probably can hear and comprehend to a certain degree, like understand, but we don't understand what they are really, where the words are coming from, what is the origin, what is the source, why are they saying the things they're saying, what's the underlying meaning. And I think like feelings show that to a certain extent, and that's also why I write poetry, to express my feelings. But we as men, we often are taught to repress them. If we do, we are more female, and all these associations with that as well. But it's actually where our healing comes from. If we don't acknowledge that we have feelings, we'll be in deep shit, really deep shit. So yeah, like I said, like and subscribe. Yeah, stay tuned for any upcoming things. Let me know what you think about the clothing, and maybe you have a nice idea for clothing, which would be a cool slogan. Yeah, what you think of the overall idea? Like, I'm wanting to make it like some clothing that is like a certain way, like certain, that it doesn't come like from China or whatever, but that it is like made of hemp, for example, or some hemp clothing would be cool, and also good for the environment and promoting that. So yeah, eternal love. Yeah, let me hear what kind of assumptions do you have? Are you willing to question? Do you find it important as well? And eternal love.